It was midnight. Aside from the dim glow of the small desk lamp, nothing else lit the room. On the shelf, beside dusty books, sat a dry skull, staring at me as if from within the shadows. On the desk lay old, heavy keys. I didn't know whose door or what door they were meant to open. The single word written on the book's cover made me shiver. Necronomicon. I had heard its name many times before. The cursed book, said to contain dark rituals, spells that summon the souls of the dead. But why was it here, in my room? When I picked up the keys, a faint whisper rose from the corner of the darkness. It sounded like someone calling my name. The whispers grew louder, and the lamp's light began to flicker. From the empty sockets of the skull on the shelf, a shadow started to seep out. Terrified, I threw the keys back onto the desk, but it was already too late. The shadow behind the skull spread across the walls, and the room's only painting, a vague silhouette, began to move. The figure had no eyes, yet it saw me. The last thing I heard was the metallic scrape from behind the door, as if someone or something was unlocking it with those cursed keys.
It was midnight. The fog devoured even the faint glow of the streetlights. That's when it appeared. An old school bus emerging from the darkness. Rust covered its body. The windows were smeared with decay, and the door was bound shut with thick, heavy chains. But something was wrong, because from inside came muffled sounds, children's laughter, whispers, and every so often, the sharp screech of metal against metal. I stepped closer. Behind the dusty glass, shadows moved. A child's silhouette pressed against the window, its eyes hollow and pitch black. And another appeared, and another. Their pale hands beat against the glass, clawing at the chained door. Just as I staggered back, the engine roared to life on its own. The bus shook violently, headlights bursting through the mist. And in that blinding glow, I understood. This was the bus of the children who drowned in the lake decades ago. And still, every night, it drives through the fog, searching for new passengers. Water dripped from the asylum's damp walls, echoing through the room. The girl sat on her bed, swaying back and forth under the dim light. Her whispers grew louder. They're here. They're watching me. Suddenly, the door slammed shut. On its own. A cold wind swept through, making the bulb flicker violently. With every flash, her shadow stretched, warping into the shape of a monstrous figure looming behind her. The girl screamed, but her voice twisted, metallic and distorted, as if coming from a broken machine. From beneath the bed, long black arms slithered out, wrapping tightly around her legs. She rocked faster now, not by choice, but dragged by the unseen force. The iron frame screeched with each violent motion, the walls trembling. Thick black fluid streamed from her eyes as her mouth stretched unnaturally wide, splitting toward her ears. Then, in the corner, a headless silhouette appeared, swaying just like her. Its steps made no sound, yet rust marks stained the floor. Where it walked, the bulb burst, plunging the room into utter darkness. And in that suffocating black, her whisper lingered. I'm not me anymore. I've become them. It was well past midnight. The fog had swallowed the narrow streets of the small town, and the street lamps flickered weakly, casting only faint circles of light. In that silence, only one car remained. A police cruiser. Its siren lights pulsed. Slowly, but the driver's seat was empty. The house ahead glowed faintly through the fog. Behind the curtains, a shadow moved too quick, too unnatural. A police officer's voice crackled through the radio. Dispatch? Did they enter the house? I think someone's inside. But the reply was only static that twisted into whispers. Several voices, speaking in unison, repeating the same word over and over. Don't. Enter. Don't. Enter. Suddenly, one of the windows creaked open. From the darkness, a long pitch-black hand clawed at the glass. The police cruiser's engine roared to life on its own. Headlights flared, but no one was behind the wheel. The fog thickened. One by one, the street lamps went out. When the last light died, only a piercing scream echoed from within the house. And then, the police car slowly rolled down the street, as if something unseen was driving it away. The moon cast a pale light through the drifting clouds, illuminating the old train station. It looked abandoned, a place where only time and forgotten memories lingered. A dusty suitcase sat beside a wooden bench, whispering that its owner had departed on a journey from which they might never return. That no one who came to this station at night ever came back. Years ago, the body of a man who had gone missing in the forest outside the town was found near these tracks. Since that day, no one dared to set foot here after dark. According to legend, on every full moon night at exactly 3:13 a.m., an invisible train would arrive at this station. You couldn't see the locomotive, only feel the rails trembling and a cold wind brushing your face as it passed. And if you sat on that bench with your suitcase, the train would take you. Ahmet remembered how the elders used to tell the story, with a dismissive tone. But for someone trying to escape his past, it sounded less like a tale and more like an opportunity. No ticket was needed, no goodbyes, just the will to leave. That night, when Ahmet arrived at the station, everything was exactly as described. The lamps flickered weakly. The moon hung timidly behind a veil of mist. He placed his suitcase next to the bench, sat down, and waited. 3:12. The wind stopped. Everything seemed frozen. The silence was so deep it hurt his ears. 3:13 a.m. The rails trembled. A low rumble rose from the ground, like something ancient awakening. Something unseen passed in front of him. A cold gust of wind cut across his face like a blade. The suitcase slowly slid across the platform toward the tracks. Ahmet stood up instinctively and reached for it. That's when a hand touched his shoulder, cold, bony, not entirely real. He turned around, no one was there. But his shadow was no longer alone on the ground. A second silhouette stood beside his dot. As his vision dimmed, Ahmet heard a single sound, a train whistle in the distance. But it didn't sound like a whistle. It sounded like a scream by morning. The station was empty once again. Only the suitcase remained, with a note resting on top. Passenger received.